Hokuto's Bow Run. And not just the Hokuto's Bow Run, but also the part 2 of Brutality-based 4-cell runs, as well as a couple of different types of runs that I tried out, and something a little bit later on, perhaps something that will change the way that I do 4-cell runs. It has to do with damage over time, specifically. Because that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to take the Hokuto's Bow, or to try out the Hokuto's Bow in the first place, especially on a higher cell difficulty. This weapon is more of a utility type weapon compared to, well, the usual fare that you would get for ranged weaponry. Closer to something like the Ice Bow, which you can always tell if something's a utility type weapon if it gives you damage reduction overall. And Hokuto's Bow is no exception in that case. So, what's its deal? You shoot at an enemy, it gives an enemy a mark. That mark lets you do extra damage on them, including extra damage for damage over time stuff, you know, your fire, your poison, or whatever. Although I'm not entirely sure if that's how it works. I tried it out quite a bit in this run, especially later on, as I alluded to. But I didn't really see all that much of a difference, mostly because damage over time does... It's kind of weird how that works. It seems like it just does a lot of damage, period? I don't know. Judge for yourself as that comes up a little bit later on. But anyway, yeah, after you kill an enemy, after it's been marked, you see like a big, huge, bloody circle appear around that enemy. It propagates the mark to every other enemy around it. When I originally did the Hokuto's Bow showcase run, back near the start of the Brutal update, I believe it was, it was just a single mark that you put on an enemy, and when they died, nothing else happened. And now that mark goes all over the place, it gets added to other enemies, and even goes through walls in one of the more recent updates. Yeah, Infected Croissant? No, I'm not using that one here. And as good as the Symmetrical Lance is, I do think the Hokuto's Bow probably would work a little bit better with a survival build, but, you know, notably it does not really mesh too well with survival, obviously. So what I was trying to do was, well, doing a little bit of grinding so I could re-roll the shop a bit, but the run that I was thinking about was get something that syncs well with Brutality, and since I managed to get a pretty lucky grab on that phaser to start with, well, you got the Despair, aka Spiteful Sword there, which is decent, but not the best for 4-cell difficulty, because getting hit, yeah, still gives you the critical, sure, but also, you know, it also gives you points of infection, so getting that critical rating comes with a pretty big downside if you really want to effectively use the Spiteful Sword there. But hey, it also attacks fast and has decent damage, it's just not amazing. No, what I wanted was what I rolled right there, the Assassin's Dagger, something that synchronizes very, very well with a phaser, especially. And to do that, all I gotta do is just kill a few elites here, which shouldn't be too bad, though this is maybe not the most opportune place to do so, what with 3 bombardiers attacking me at once, one of them being elite. At least it's pretty easy to keep that mark up. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I think it's a little bit more worthwhile to grab the necklace as opposed to, you know, selling that to immediately get the thing, because those extra stats are very useful at the start here. And besides, I did manage to get enough money, but if worse came to worse, I could have always just sold the Hunter's Grenade as well and taken the curse. Obviously, I've gotten through this entire first area without getting hit, and hey, that's kind of how you have to play if you're doing 4-cell difficulty especially. So, the build that this is sort of a, like, one single really huge hit, rather than... Which is not usually something you do, which is why I was saying that the Symmetrical Lance might have been a better option for this, because, you know, survival weapons are all about doing singular huge hits. But, you know, if you're hitting an enemy in the back after using the phaser and marking them, you can get a decent amount of damage off of there, but it's not... You know, Brutality weapons are good, but they're meant to be used very quick. I mean, that's a thing overall with Brutality. You're not meant to do, like... you do good damage per second. You don't do singular huge hits. And additionally... What well, the thing with Brutality overall is that it's the realm of damage over time stuff. Your torches, your oiled swords. What is it? Inferno Blast. What? Cannot remember the name of this now. Fire Torrent. Wow, that was totally not the right thing at all. Even the Hokuto's bow is getting kind of in the business here, because the one I have right now has a modifier that poisons enemies when you shoot them. So, a lot of damage over time stuff. Oh, also flamethrower turret and all the grenades and blah blah blah. But then there's also fast melee weapons, and fast melee weapons are good, but I think put you in too vulnerable of a position compared to what you get out of survival weapons, which is a lot of big hits and a lot of stuns, whether it's through like a crusher, for example, or nutcracker, or any of those sorts of weapons. And then obviously tactics is you can stay out of harm's way by, you know, getting very far away from enemies, so usually pretty helpful there. Yeah, since Hokuto's bow, at least, again, not entirely sure, but it might work on damage over time stuff. Getting a fire grenade there would be good, not only for a little extra damage reduction, which is helpful because I'm not going to be building a whole ton of survival. Well, by the end of the game I will, but not right now. Yeah, and I'd say that as soon as I grab survival. Well, I wanted to get at least one early survival. That plus 60% is nothing to... Don't discount that plus 60% at the start of the game here. You get hit like once or twice. Infection's not really what you're going to be worrying about, let's just say that. But anyway, you can even see right here that the whole plan of getting one big hit with the phaser and the mark and the blah blah, it's still taking like 1 or 2 hits, which is 1 or 2 hits more than I would like to be doing to kill an enemy. I don't know. To say it's working fine is correct, but it could be working finer, I suppose, is what I would be saying. Aside from that, like, for this basic build, I think that getting a frost grenade would be pretty helpful too. Flame grenade can also synergize good with other modifiers. For example, getting plus 100% on a burning target for the assassin's dagger. Bear trap would be good, but that doesn't actually synergize with brutality, so it's maybe not the best. I think I would rather take a grenade too, because the artificer minus cooldown for grenades mutation is one that is extremely good with this, because, well, skills are extremely good in general. That also gives me a bit of a ranged attack to prevent me from having to be constantly in harm's way. And you can also get damage over time even if you do take an ice grenade, because you're able to get the bleed modifier pretty easily now that you can reroll modifiers in between levels. So, in other words, there's a lot of pretty good options, I would say, here for... Yeah, this is definitely where having a fast weapon shines. Yeesh. Of course, that bat is being incredibly obnoxious. Thankfully, the dive attack has pretty good range to it. Well, anyway, there's a lot of pretty good options, I would say, for brutality in this. Unfortunately, you might notice that a lot of those options don't really include fast melee weaponry, which is supposed to be the wheelhouse of brutality. And that kind of brings me to why I changed up the run overall. Pretty much, I would say that it's so much more valuable to have range damage, especially on 4-cell mode, just to make sure that you're not getting yourself in harm's way. That would actually be pretty good, but now it's a Hokuto's bow run, so not this time. Yeah, having range stuff, whether it is the flame grenade or even the ice grenade, which speaking of taking something like a ice splinter or a frost shock, or ice shock, I mean, oh great, I can't remember the names of anything now. That's a good sign. I certainly didn't spend... It's not like I even spent too long this run. I recorded it yesterday. Anyway, Yeah, it's like you can get some good range damage with that because of... you can get some good range damage with the flame grenade and the ice grenade, but you can also, you know, get damage over time with both of them, whether it's bleed or, well, fire, too. And you also get the slowing effect. And it's a much bigger range and big AoE along with that. Why would I want to take, like, the Assassin's Dagger here when you can have those sort of things be dealt with? Especially with the Hokuto's bow doing a little bit of extra damage with that on top of it. So that's sort of where I was going with this run, because what I want to do is I want to not have to be standing next to this elite tracker as I'm fighting him here. I want to be far away, and there are options to do that with Brutality, but at the same time it also feels like it goes against what Brutality is to me? I don't know. I mean, needless to say, I'm already starting to get a lot more usage out of the flame grenade as it is, so I don't know. I did not upgrade the Hokuto's bow there because I was thinking, well, first off, I wanted to get the plus 100% on burning and something that doesn't have me taking extra damage. And then, yeah, obviously take that so I can throw that bomb out as much as possible. But I didn't upgrade the Hokuto's bow there because I was thinking that, alright, so the highest, you can only upgrade things once. So the highest I could get is ++. I will go try to get a, not an S rank, but a natively ++ rank so that I can try to get it to be S rank Hokuto's bow in the future. That way I'm not, you know, spending too much money trying to get an upgrade that I'll probably be throwing away pretty quickly. Yeah, you're already getting a lot of strats as related to doing the doing the reforging here. Should come as no surprise though, but hey, it's emergent gameplay. That's an important part of doing, you know, the whole early access as it is. And there you can see with the shockers that whole thing that I was talking about where it's like, the Assassin's Dagger is a good weapon, absolutely, but I'm using it less and less. And here was the point where I was thinking, well, man, do I even need it? I mean, look at how much the poison damage is doing. Look at how much the flame grenade is doing. I think it should be pretty obvious what I'm talking about here. Brutality, in addition to being, you know, fast melee weapons, is also the damage over time skill. So, I've talked in the past about how important, say, passive damage is, usually in terms of talking about like turrets and all that sort of stuff. Well, I think that when it comes to Brutality, the form of passive damage you get isn't through, you know, turrets, it's through damage over time. And it's not even so much the damage over time that you're looking for when you're using it. No, what it really is the fact that it's passive damage, and it's also multiple sources of damage all at once. So, you know, as nice as it is to have something like the phaser, which will really buff up my weapon, I could also just grab, say, a second flame grenade and get way more damage that I don't even have to be anywhere near enemies to get. And you can really see that, like, that was the first time that I hit that slasher with my melee weapon, and that was just to finish him. I could have literally just walked away, and he probably would have died at the same time, too, so I don't know. I think that the way to go with Brutality really is just build up as much damage over time as possible. It just seems like it's something working out more and more in my favor. And then I believe in the ossuary here, what I will eventually do is go to a shop and grab... Is he right here, in fact? No, this is when I was trying to go for a second Hokuto's bow, which is right there. And it is natively ++ rank, which means that I can get it to S rank, and blah, 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 blah. You get it. It's usually not too difficult to be able to reroll shops or upgrade things on high sell difficulty because I can pretty easily get money from killing a bunch of elites or selling stuff from curse chests. But anyway, what I was trying to get at is, this is when I switch out the phaser for a... This is about the point in time when I switch out the phaser for a Ice Grenade to try to get that nice slowing as well as bleed. And then also... yeah, there it is right there. And then also where I start to think about switching out the Assassin's Dagger for, I believe what I was always trying to go for was an Alchemic Rifle, because that would also, you know, give me some opportunities to get another Hokuto's bow, as well as give some more opportunities for getting a Hokuto's bow, as well as, you know, a lot of opportunity for getting poison. Because I could get something like the Flame Torrent or whatever, which is good. It's nice. Or even something like that, but that the throwing knives there. But the throwing knives don't, you know, scale with... throwing knives don't scale with Brutality, unlike the Alchemic Gun or Flame Torrent or whatever. But the thing is, I already have a Flame Grenade, so I don't necessarily need more fire. Which is why I was thinking the Alchemic Gun could be better. And you might say, well, you also have the Hokuto's bow giving you poison, but I can get way, way more poison with an Alchemic Gun compared to, you know, the occasional 1 or 2 hits with the Hokuto's bow here. Oh, come on. You can't hit me when I'm on the wall. I have to be off the wall. I mean, it's like... have you learned nothing from Michael Jackson? Anyway, this is also the point in time where I'm just like, man, I don't even want to try using my Assassin's Dagger here. Like, I have Phaser all up and ready to go, and I'm using that to move around more than, like, try to do damage. And the fact that the Flame Grenade is doing so much work is kind of testament to how improved Fire has become in the past couple updates. Because Fire has been improved. I believe it either does more ticks per damage, or more damage per tick, I mean. It also adds more ticks onto enemies per damage. I mean, you can't see them because, you know, they're so small. Yeah, you think that fire hurts you because it burns you? Oh, no, no, no. It's actually injecting ticks directly onto your skin, which then suck blood out of you. Okay, this is all stupid. Anyway, yeah, Curse Chest, good for money, and also good for buffing up the old Flame Grenade. And something that I didn't even talk about, but... like, the Flame Grenade here is also giving me a pretty substantial amount of damage reduction, so ain't nothing wrong with that as well. And unlike turrets, you can't destroy flames. I mean, I guess you can stand in water, that is a thing in this game, but... like, fire doesn't get destroyed by anything, by any sort of enemy. And even, like, one of the most obvious ways that, like, fire can be stopped, like the... projectile blocking passively from, like, the hand, for example. He's good at blocking projectiles and the damage over time stuff and whatever. Yep, there's where I get the Ice Bomb. Goodbye, Phaser. You were nice, but it just got to the point where I was using you more for movement than actual use. At least with the Ice Bomb, I'll just have enemies moving slower instead of me having to move faster and more herky-jerky. Also, enemy dying passively off-screen, apparently due to the spikes, which they definitely weren't walking into because that doesn't happen anymore. What are you talking about? Oh. So, yeah. This Brutality run, not so much weaponry, which, again, should really be what Brutality is all about, but... damage over time, just stacking up as much damage over time as possible. And the Artificer gives me more than enough ability to use grenades. Like, I think by the end of this, by the time that they're on cooldown, they're almost back up again. It's a little crazy, to be honest. I do think that getting a decent survival weapon again could be good as well. Something like a broadsword could sync well with Frost. Or a Frost Blast there would also be good to get a bunch more bleed stacks on there. But I think that diversify... I mean, that's actually another thing. It's not so much about... like I said, it's not so much about the passive damage, it's about diversifying damage. It's much like you'll want in a portfolio. I think having as many sources of damage as possible is helpful, especially in the late game here. And although when it comes to damage over time stuff, you don't get extra damage off of having, you know, enemies being on fire, because fire doesn't get plus 100% on fire. I mean, it's... Fighting fire with fire is not a literal suggestion you should be taking, after all. But, to that point, it's like, I would say that it does, when you really stack up, you can get so many stacks of damage over time stuff on enemies, any sort of affliction or whatever, that it effectively will do as much damage as any powerful turret, as your crossbow mags, as I just sold there, for example. While also, you know, enemies can't put themselves out, and they can't destroy the source of fire, because it's fire, or poison, or oil, or whatever. I guess, you know, technically there is a plus 100% fire on fire, and that's having things be oiled. But I don't know if you could count that, really. Obviously, poison and bleed doesn't have the same sort of effect, but if I grabbed an alchemic gun here, I could mark enemies, bleed enemies, fire enemies. And in fact, with Hokuto's bow, you can also get an affix which gives you oil up enemies that you strike. So it's like you can get a lot of... So when I say diversify sources of damage with Brutality, you can actually really diversify sources of damage, like for real. And that, you'll see as this run continues to go on, becomes way more effective than I could have ever possibly guessed with this sort of build. And again, it's like there may also be extra damage being taken because they're marked, because the mark might give them... I really cannot say one way or another, but it's definitely... Oh, and even on top of all of that, their enemies are also slowed down because they're frozen after hitting them with the ice grenade. Which the ice grenade I'm using almost for just extra damage. Although, like I said, you could easily also justify using it for the freeze effect. But look at that damage there. It's like that was... If I threw out a couple turrets, I could not have asked for more. I could not have asked for, like, a quicker kill on some of these guys here. It is maybe the way to do damage at this point. I can't say with absolute certainty, but as far as 4-cell runs go, this is one of the easier ones that I've had in some time. And unlike, you know, throwing down a turret where enemies have to be in range or whatever, you don't have to be anywhere near enemies that are bleeding. They will bleed regardless of how far you are away from them. New strategy? Just a lucky run? Maybe it's because I was going through one of the easier routes you can possibly take in the game. I don't know, but oof, that was close. I don't know, but as of right now, it's like, man, I'm really impressed with this. I think, yeah, Flame and Frost, Hokuto's bow, and an alchemic gun might become my go-to for 4-cell mode. Hard to say. Also, I really reject getting hit there. I don't think that should have happened. Whatever. Who am I to disagree? So the reason why I wasn't taking as many curse chests as possible was, well, I would have gotten totally modelized there the second that spinner hit me, but that wasn't really the reason. No, it was more because I was running into so few enemies that I wasn't entirely sure if I could get to the incomplete one fight without being cursed at this point. So I grabbed a hunter's longbow. It's good? I mean, I was barely using the... At this point, I was barely using the assassin's dagger, so as far as that goes, I'm already, like, it's already worth it just not based on usage alone. But it's also not really the most ideal thing, because it's kind of runs counter to the whole hit and run mechanic that I'm working with, where I throw down grenades and then run away. It's like you want to do one or the other. Like have a good sniper bow like I got here, or hit and run, because enemies are going to be killed too quickly. Well, because whichever one you choose, enemies are probably going to be killed by the time, you know, you get the second one ready to be in play. For example, right there. Additionally, damage over time, for whatever crazy reason, can proc enemies getting stunned, which I don't believe is true for turrets. I don't think turrets can do enough damage to stun enemies. Also, oh well, I have a food shop here, so there's no real danger of getting too infected because the food shop will be able to clear out at least 3 points of infection. So that's kind of how that goes. But yes, I don't know. Yeah, that was some really good hit there, but not really a problem either, because it's also pretty easy to knock enemies out of being frozen if you... It's also pretty easy to knock enemies out of being frozen by just hitting them with the Hokuto's bow as well. So the other thing I think to say about 4-cell mode here, or at least the new 4-cell mode, is that for the most part I haven't really had too much issue with pretty surprisingly large ossuary. For the most part I haven't really had too much issue with the infection, because at the very worst, At the very worst, when it comes to the infection, if it ever gets very high, what I do is I just, you know, take a chug of the flask charge, which will completely lower infection to nothing. And since you got 4 of those per run, I mean, I guess, you know, that does put you in a bad position when it comes to fighting a boss, whether it's a hand or whatever you need to fight. I don't know, maybe you're just doing a little bit of cell grinding, just going to the incomplete one or the watcher. Could easily be the case too. Want to save him for that. It could easily be something of a case where, yeah, I didn't want to die to traps. I mean, that would be the worst, because this run is going pretty good so far. Not the fastest. I mean, it's nearly a half hour, and I'm not even, you know, and I'm just to the incomplete one. But you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Here's where I managed to get oil on the Hokuto's bow. But yeah, there's a sort of feeling that I get when it comes to doing these runs, because I think originally when I started doing a lot of these runs, the idea was that, you know what, I'm going to check out every single weapon, see how they do, how they work, all that sort of stuff. And now I think that with a lot of these runs, it's not so much figuring out what the best weapon is, but the best combination, the easiest way to beat the game, rather than like the best sword to use or whatever. And the problem that you kind of run into with that is that I know a lot of people probably don't have the timing for dodging everything down nearly as well as I do in a lot of cases. So, for example, here after this battle, but I'll cut in one of my other 4-cell run attempts when I was going full tactics and like and a 4 times damage pyrotechnics and all that sort of stuff. Here in the screen transition, cut it in. So yeah, you could see there that That was entirely based on the fact that I was confident in my ability to dodge around the hand. He did almost, what, all of my health? All of my health, and not even him, but a single bomb from an ugly worm brought me down to 1 HP. But I still managed to get the kill off. So does that mean necessarily that that is the way to play 4-cell mode? That that's the easiest way to beat 4-cell mode? Absolutely not. That is a terrible way to do it, and if you didn't happen to get extremely lucky and only get hit once that entire fight, like I did there, yeah, it's pretty much a death sentence. You might as well be using a cursed sword. Well, a cursed sword, if they're... I did get hit once, but still. And I feel like that might also be the case here, too, where it's like, I tend to... Well, streaming aside, which, I mean, hey, those things go on for like 3 hours. I'm trying to talk to people, and I may also be imbibing some adult libations whilst doing so, which is why I tend to almost never have a successful run when doing that. It's like I don't really get hit all that often in these runs. So when it comes to dealing with infection or something like that, I feel like I'm a bit on the not as knowledgeable end. That's one of those reasons why I thought that doing one of the, doing the whole deal with the no-roll runs could be interesting, because it really hampers your ability to dodge, and when you're playing a run like, and when you're doing a style of run like this, that can sort of put you more on a level where you're thinking more about your equipment than your skill. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's really hard to say. Aside from that, this is also a very good route for dealing with infection. Although I suppose even if I went to the Slumbering Sanctuary, in one of the cell doors now, you do also have a food shop. So this, in the ossuary you get a food shop, in the ramparts you get a food shop, Ford and the Sanctuary you get a food shop, and all of those together combined give you a minimum of 6 infection relief over the course of a run. So it's nothing insignificant. Getting hit 6 times is a bit of a... I mean, you'd have a problem there, but again, also, you could also blow a single flask charge and be totally fine. Oh, man. Activating an elite phaser is not the best idea. Why is that? It's because I think that the elite phasers may be the fastest attacking enemies in the entire game. It is extremely hard to not get hit by those guys. I do not have the timing down at all, and I think I suffer... Did I get hit twice there, I think? Which is pretty bad considering that I'm not even using a melee weapon, and I'm literally just throwing grenades at him. So I only had to focus on dodging that entire time. Woof. Now, that was the food shop, and yeah, certainly I could have got food there, cleared out all my infection rating, but I was also thinking, you know what, in case I get hit, I forgot that I broke the floor there, in case I get hit again, I would also like to get the healing, the benefit of healing, along with the infection relief too, so that was close. So it's worth not picking that up immediately, you know, staggering it out. Also, apparently you can double mark dudes, which I don't know if that's actually effective or anything, or just a glitch on the UI, but who knows. Anyway, talking a little bit more about infection, especially too. That was really bad. Talking a little bit more about infection too is that I'm getting a lot of it. So yeah. This build overall is a little bit better, maybe not to deal with infection specifically, but it is good to deal with getting hit a lot, because compared to the tactics run that I showed, for example, you can take a lot more damage if you're building Brutality. You might not be able to get the incredible, insane damage of, you know, having a 4 times damage pyrotechnics or anything like that, or a Or, you know, a plus 300% with poison and fire, blah, 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 sort of ceiling turret or whatever. But it's also a lot easier to get the damage over time on enemies with this sort of build as well. Come on. Like, why am I even... Yeah. It's also a lot easier to get damage over time on enemies. You know, your passive, your diversified damage. So, it's not... I would say it's a little bit more, like, player-friendly and a little bit less of a skill ceiling to get this sort of build working compared to big money tactics builds. Honestly, it does seem like it's pretty much highest damage tactics, highest damage, lowest survivability is tactics, medium damage, medium survivability, brutality, and then low damage, high survivability is survival. Because survival, if you did want to try to do a similar sort of run with, all you have is what? Biter Swarm for separate sources of damage, a Biter Swarm and Crusher, and then aside from that, it's mostly based around shields, which I suppose does give you a bit better defensive options, but does not usually, you don't usually use those to attack. All of that sort of stuff. Better stunning, I suppose there is, but it's mostly, you're mostly using your main weapon, unless you really want to spec into getting biters going. Which, speaking of which, that should probably be the next run. Biter Swarm is one that I've kind of had on the docket for a while that I really should be using a little bit more, that I should be checking out a little bit more. I always think that they're not very good because compared to, say, fire, like I said, you can't put fire out or get rid of fire that's on the ground unless you're in water. Whereas the biters, you can kill. Like the hand with a single swing, for example, would probably be able to take out an entire swarm of them. So, I don't know, I want to see if I can get that working, because I know they also can have some pretty good affixes on them, for example, getting a huge amount of poison along with the physical damage. I don't know, but that's also something that is survival scaling, so it might be... So if I was going to be trying to figure out, well, how would you do a survival run now with the infection mechanic, now that you can't take too many hits? Something like Crusher, Biter Swarm, I don't know, a Symmetrical Lance could be good too. As of right now, the Tactics and Brutality certainly have a lot of very good options for ranged weaponry, and diversified damage, and passive damage, and blah blah blah, all these buzzwords that I'm just making up for the sake of playing this game. Do think I am really getting a good amount of use out of that oil over time. It's seems surprisingly useful. Like I said, I know they did buff up fire in one of the more recent patches. I don't know if fire was just always this good and I didn't realize it, or what, because I don't know. Either way, yeah, if you're looking for a good run for 4-cell mode that gives you a little bit of survivability while still having a lot of damage, this is the one for you. Yeah, it's a good thing that I couldn't actually eat that, because that did have infection on it, and I am getting a little bit higher than I'm comfortable with as regarding that. I gave a quick look here because, you know, when I upgrade it, it'll do a little bit more damage, maybe have a little bit more damage reduction. I don't know. Yeah, certainly the one thing this run has is a lot of damage reduction. That's 3 items that give it to me now, and obviously the necklace as well. Alchemic gun, which I'm still looking for. I think I eventually get in the castle. Not nearly as much, but what are you gonna do? Cells, not particularly useful, but I'm still grabbing them to try to upgrade the Forge a little bit. Obviously, Forge upgrade's going pretty slow because the new update they have requires 8,000 cells to get the maximum amount of S rank items appearing, and even if you donate in like 1,000 plus cells, it still only raises it to like 5% chance. It's slow going is what I'm saying. Like, slow enough that the next patch is probably going to wipe my save file for the alpha branch here before I'm able to get that fully upgraded. Ah, well. The other thing is that I did get the final upgrade for the salvage, which is supposed to give you 25,000 gold when you die. Well, which is supposed to have you retain 25,000 gold, but currently does not work, so I got it for nothing. Money for nothing, because you don't actually get it. Anyway, hey, time is a flat circle, and I got the Assassin's Dagger again. Good stuff. Now, is the Assassin's Dagger better than the Hunter's Longbow? Not really, because honestly, I wasn't really using the Hunter's Longbow there. This combination alone is already doing me so much good that I don't really feel the need to try to finagle that into working anyway. So why not take this one? It'll have me taking less damage because, you know, I lose the 20% extra damage taken because colorless, blah, 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 cursed item. And there's a potential for it being better. I mean, hey, this was the item that I originally started this run out with, so I guess I don't know. Hard to say. Also, Cursed Chest, nah, I don't even want to risk it at this point because this run is going, wow, getting hit by an undead archer. Of all the things to get hit by in the clock tower, an undead archer. Just an enemy that you can literally just duck to render 100% useless. Well, that's Dead Cells for you. Yeah, I took the damage reduction for trap, not the damage reduction for bad play. Yeah, this is where I went pretty hard trying to find the alchemic gun. Although, nah, I decided that even though, yeah, I could easily get that up to S rank in the next area and whatever, I did it. I like the modifiers, the affixes that are currently on the bow by themselves right now. I don't really feel the need to get it just about it. I don't really feel the need to get anything else because just I think the oil alone, along with the mark, is just such a substantial damage increase. I mean, look at that alone. And also, like I was talking about before, check out that cooldown reduction on those grenades. It's again, I just want to say, it's like I did not think this run was going to be this good. I don't know, maybe this will turn out to be the strategy for doing 4-cell runs. Brutality, something that I've been neglecting so hard in the past few patches. It's coming back to bite me in the weirdest way. Well, in the most unpredictable way. Let's go with that. Another shop with a bunch of skills over there, but I am still more than fine with the skill amount that I have right now. And although Infection is getting a little up there, I'm not a fan. But at the same time, I think that I'm also surviving this. If worse comes to worse, I can easily just take a chug on the potion. Just set that down to 0. You know, I will say this. 4-cell mode. It is, at least to me right now, easier than it was previously. Because previously, the thing was, it was just tons and tons of enemies everywhere doing damage to you at all points in time. And now this is less enemies. I guess what I'm saying is that I do consider this a bit easier, but I also think that it's better. It's better difficulty. After all, if I wanted to go for insane, ludicrous difficulty, I would be suggesting that they put in Allah's mod. Just make everything elites. Make it official. But it's like, you know, there is an art to difficulty. And I've talked before about cheap difficulty and spamming and, you know, making things more difficult just for the sake of it being difficult. And I think that this creates a little bit more of a happy medium. Although, again, one of the reasons why I have such an easy time dealing with Infection is because of how super effective the flask is on taking care of it if it gets up too high, and also I tend not to have it get too high anyway. So it could easily be that, oh sure, it might be easier for me. For the populace at large, it is the hardest thing since sliced bread. Or stale bread, I guess, would be more of a... So anyway, the assassin, have her namesake dagger. She does not use a dagger, she uses like a gigantic claymore or something, but you know, that's pretty much the same thing, just a matter of scale. Doing a lot of... Now, here's the thing. She gets countered pretty hard by utilizing, for example, a suite of turrets. Not nearly as much when it comes to fire, for example, since she's so mobile. She moves around a lot. Obviously still got excellent damage because I have excellent damage overall. But it's not as much of a lock when it comes to winning as like throwing down 2 ceiling turrets and pyrotechnics, for example. Now, shorter range melee weaponry, and like I said, she doesn't like to stay in fire comparatively. So here's where I start to take way more infection damage than I want. Thankfully, due to the slow there, I was able to roll out of her grab. Otherwise, that could have been... Well, I do still have a pretty huge amount of, damage reduction, but it still would have hurt. Let's just say that. Also, hey, boy, have they really improved up tonic a lot. Like, 35%? Hell yes. Also, I did not see there, but if it does not cure any infection, it should, because, come on, it's clearly using the high C that the potion is using. Come on. Come on, Motion Twin. At least make it cure, like, I don't know, 2 points of infection or something. Again, I didn't actually look there in the run or right now, so... I could be totally wrong, period. You may have already rewound the video and are preparing to tell me in the comments that I'm super wrong. So, anyway, Collector there also has a new no items left to unlock screen as well, so... I don't know. It's... content. Castle. Got some good stuff here. Oh, also, I think I said during last stream that only the Toxic Cloud could have the electrocutes enemies affixes. I have now found out that apparently also the Corrupted Power can get lets you electrocute enemies for a couple seconds around you affix as well. I'm guessing that some of the, I'm sure some of the powers also will allow you to do that, maybe like a denial wave or something like that too. But grenades and turrets have supplanted powers in my mind so much that I have not even looked at them all that much as of recently. Not that powers are bad or anything. I think that certainly if you're not going for like a crusher, which I would suggest, still gotta go get that. But then again, by the time I get that, patch will probably be out and lose the experimental save, the hell that sort of deal. It's an endless treadmill until the beta comes out. But yeah, if you're not going for a crusher, when you're going for like a survival type of run or anything like that, it's, the powers are pretty good options, especially now that they have buffed tonic considerably, so it actually heals health rather than just, you know, putting a scab on your scraped knees, which is pretty much what it was doing before. Definitely a change that I appreciate. Yeah, look forward to the tonic only run coming out soon. I say that, but I did also just recently get a pretty good dive attack only run, so it's not inconceivable, it's just stupid. I don't even know what a showcase of that would look like. It wouldn't even make any sense. You can only use it once per thing. Now, I do have the bleed and the freeze and the dagger, but one of the main sources of damage, the flame grenade, is not going to work at all because the dual tracker fight in the mortuary there is in a pool of blood, so lose out on any ability to start enemies on fire. That was pretty much my justification. A little extra money isn't too bad. I do need a lot of money for re-rolling right now if I'm going to conceivably get the alchemic rifle. Not called that, the alchemic gun. Infected. Never able to get. It seems like food that you find outside of shops has like a 70% chance of being infected at this point. It's certainly a far cry from the first time that I was doing 4-cell when the infected update, well, the infected patch came out. And it felt like everything I was getting was uninfected, and well, whatever. Clearly not the case here. Confirmation bias at its finest. Let's just say that. Thorny. You know, like I said, it's not the fastest way. Something like turrets would take this out much faster, but you can also see I was at no risk at any point there. I would have had to literally go in there and attack his back just to even take damage from the Thorny in that fight. Also, there's where I'm talking where some decently powered up biters can actually do some real damage, which is... I don't know, though, because I think they also die really quick. Something to try out. You know, theory crafting all about the Hokuto's bow in previous episodes, and now I'm theory crafting about the Biter Swarm episode in the Hokuto's bow episode. It's just a treadmill of content you expect on this channel, I guess. Never stop it. Anyway, is it worth it to actually go up and fight that elite lancer up there? Not really. I mean, I have a pretty decent setup. Oh wait, no, I already did it anyway. Hey, he had the mark on him. That means that, and you know, I can run away pretty well too. And he's slowed. This is just such a good build. It really does shock me a lot. So, anyway, as you can probably see up there, you got one of my last chances at getting a... Wow, that was really close. Like, way closer than it should have been, let's be honest here. You know, one of the last chances that I got at getting an alchemic gun, so gotta be getting up there pretty quickly. But even if I don't, I was just talking about how useful damage over time is for Brutality with this particular build. So getting something like the torch, I think, might be a little bit better. Yeah, I do already have fire with the flame grenade, but maybe there's something that can, I don't know, get more usage out of it than I was with the Assassin's Dagger, after all. Poor melee weaponry, really taking a beating in this one. Oh well, that's how the cookie crumbles. That's how the cells get added to the... me. I mean, cells are kind of like enemies crumbling, right? I got nothing. Anyway, yeah, this is the simplest warp that I got, that I don't have to go through the entire, you know, labyrinthine castle here, which is usually the best option, if possible. Also, some really good grenade throwing there. Anyway, come on, big money, alchemic gun. And there it is, finally. So yeah, combined with everything else, now I have pretty much the full suite of damage over time stuff that you can get in the game. Pretty much every single effect too. Got poison, bleed, mark, fire, oil. Yeah, I think that's actually everything. Oh hey, well, so much for that being the last chance that I had at getting yeah, thanks. Really good play there. Yeah, so much for that being the last chance that I had at getting an alchemic gun. But, whatever. Really don't even need to go to that right now. There's nothing else that I could possibly hope for. Yeah, the only thing that's not great about the alchemic gun is that it really does take a while to fire. Like, you feel it. But hey, thanks to grinding out the hand fight quite a bit, I'm getting way better at, you know, the dance you kind of have to do to use a long charging weapon where well, to hit him in the back with a long charge, with a weapon that has a long charge. Wow. Nearly an hour, losing my voice here. Post-commentary, so I don't even have the excuse of, oh, I couldn't talk, I was playing the game. Alright, let's go, you giant skeleton man. Obviously, well, that wasn't intentional, but thanks to missing with the fire grenade, I got a little bit of a break before the slashers started attacking me again, which probably good. Even slowed down, I don't know how good I would be at dodging those dudes. They're tough customers. I missed with both of those grenades, but thankfully stuff stays around for a while and blah blah blah. Alchemic gun also maybe being the most powerful of the damage over time stuff that I got going on here. I mean, it does take up a main hand, so it's no surprise that that's the case. I probably could have gone to the mortuary. I have poison, I have freezing. Hey, transistor. And up here, got a little Solaire there doing his praise the sun. Taiyo Banzai. What would I even want for affixes on that? I don't know. Either way here, I think that getting a little emergency healing, not even for the healing, but more just so I can have a fast way to take down infection. Because I don't know how much you could possibly get hit in this fight and survive. This isn't a huge... I guess it's hugely tanky in terms of damage reduction, not hugely tanky in terms of health. At least comparatively. But yeah, look at that damage! It's honestly kind of incredible. And he takes a lot of poison, and even if you're not able to hit him with projectile, the lingering poison takes quite a bit out of the dude despite that. And also the lingering poison means that when he's dashing around, he's taking even more damage. Again, largely dependent on how well are you able to dodge the hand, which is kind of how 4-cell mode goes, period. For better or for worse. 1, 2, 3. Good combo. Dive attack to be able to destroy those banners easily. I don't even think I've been hit once, which is a surprise. A little ridiculous insofar as the weight gain you gotta play here. Yeah, didn't need it. Might have been able to do a perfect hand fight if I didn't realize that I didn't actually need to use... Because what I was trying to do, I was trying to get the invincibility shield so I could tank a couple hits. Entirely unnecessary there. Oh, well, there it worked. Ah, so close. But yeah, that was the easiest 4-cell hand fight I've had in some time. Like, wow. I guess hand is countered pretty well by damage over time. Or something. I don't know. Draw conclusions from it as you will. Either way, that's Brutality in 4-cell mode. I think that, yeah, in future, this is probably the build I'm going to be using.